Hello everyone, this is Akshay Trimukhe, starting with a new lecture video on trigeminal nerve. Now this nerve, trigeminal nerve, is very important not only in the view of dentistry but also in our daily life. You means there are many actions or many you can say many functions which are carried out by this trigeminal nerve, like the sensation of touch, temperature, pressure, proprioception. These all senses are taken of our face, especially of face, is taken by our trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal nerve is a mixed nerve. Okay, so like first we'll see what is trigeminal nerve, its introduction, and then we'll proceed further in each and every aspects. Okay, so let us start with this video, trigeminal nerve. So what is the introduction, or you can say definition of trigeminal nerve, how you can describe this nerve? So this is the trigeminal nerve is the largest cranial nerve consisting of three main branches, that is three branches, which is ophthalmic, maxillary and mandibular. Trigeminal nerve is the largest cranial nerve consisting of three main branches, in which two are purely sensory and one is mixed, that is it contains both like sensory and motor fibers. So in which like ophthalmic and maxillary are purely sensory fibers of trigeminal nerve, and mandibular nerve contains both, performs both functions, means like it has both fibers, sensory as well as motor fibers. Then trigeminal nerve is the nerve of first branchial arch, or you can say pharyngeal arch. So let us go into detail of this branchial arch, or you can say pharyngeal arch, just for extra knowledge. Like in your embryological development, you can see, you have seen arches and pouches. Here it's just a reference diagram which I am making. Now we have started with our whiteboard lecture also. Just pay attention. Okay, so we have done with our four arches. This is arch 1, pharyngeal arch 1, second, third and fourth. So just for an extra knowledge, you should know which pharyngeal arch is supplied by which nerve. These all arches has one nerve, muscle, or you can say muscles, ligament, then cartilage of each and every arches. It has a specific muscle, nerve, artery and your what you can say cartilage. So the first arch is supplied by, I'll show with the green the nerve. First arch is supplied by your trigeminal nerve. Second arch is supplied by facial nerve, which is the 7th cranial nerve. Third arch is supplied by glossopharyngeal nerve, which is your 9th nerve, and the fourth arch is supplied by your vagus nerve, which is your 10th cranial nerve. So this was about the arches which we have studied, means like we have just generally described the four arches and their nerve supply, means like the first arch is supplied by trigeminal nerve today, which we are concerned of. Like second pharyngeal arch is supplied by your 7th cranial nerve, that is the facial nerve. Third arch is supplied by your glossopharyngeal, and fourth arch is supplied by your vagus nerve. So let us move again to that PPT presentation. So branches of trigeminal nerve provide sensory fibers to four parasympathetic ganglia associated with cranial outflows here's a mistake, of parasympathetic nervous system. So what does this mean? See, an entire HNF, like entire head, neck and face, has four parasympathetic cranial outflow, or you can say four parasympathetic ganglia which has parasympathetic cranial outflow. Now this you will do in the other lecture videos in detail, but just to enlist them, there are four parasympathetic what you can say ganglia. These are like ciliary. First is the ciliary, next second is your pterygopalatine, I'm not writing the entire, you just understand it. Ciliary, pterygopalatine. Then the third is otic, and the fourth is your submandibular. So these are the 4 parasympathetic ganglia which has connections to the like parasympathetic connections of your trigeminal nerve. Okay, of the trigeminal branches to these 4 parasympathetic ganglion of HNF, that is ciliary, pterygopalatine, otic and submandibular. Okay. Now let's move to these 4 branches, or you can say 3 branches of trigeminal nerve in detail. So first we'll see the ophthalmic nerve. We are not just looking into the detail, just I'm giving you a small idea, like sorry, I've done a spelling mistake over here. Ophthalmic nerve. Now this ophthalmic nerve is the first division which carries sensory fibers from the structures derived from frontonasal process. Means whichever structure embryologically is developed from frontonasal process is supplied by your ophthalmic nerve, which carries the sensory sensations, because ophthalmic nerve is purely sensory. So it will take all your sensory fibers from the frontonasal, means the frontonasal process, the what you can say, the things which are derived from your frontonasal processes, which is everything the sensory supply is taken by your ophthalmic nerve. Then the next branch, which is the maxillary. This maxillary nerve is also a purely sensory nerve. It is the second division and conveys, or you can say it carries the afferent fibers, or you can say sensory fibers from the structures that are derived from your maxillary process. So embryologically, whatever structures which are derived from the maxillary process is going to be in concern of your maxillary nerve. So these maxillary nerve has a sensory outflow, or you can say it takes afferent fibers or sensory fibers from the structures which are derived from maxillary process. And last but not the least, that is mandibular nerve. Obviously mandibular nerve also will have its sensory, it's mixed, but it has sensory what you can say afferent fibers which carries the sensory sensations from the structures which are derived from the mandibular process, embryologically from the mandibular process. So we have done, or we have just enlisted the actually main branches: ophthalmic, maxillary, mandibular, and its embryological status. Means like with embryologically we have compared these 3 branches. Now let us see. It's disturbing a lot. Okay. Now let us. I'll clean the board. Wait, just a minute. Okay. So now we have said about what is, like, we have talked a bit about what is your 5th cranial nerve, trigeminal nerve. Now let us see from where this trigeminal nerve starts, or from where it is what you can say originating. So when you take a view of your skull or cranium, see, the trigeminal nerve actually starts from your trigeminal ganglia. Just for a better view and understanding, I'm just drawing this cranium. Okay, so this is your cranium. Now this cranium is actually divided into 3 what you can say spaces or fossa, that is anterior cranial fossa, this is middle cranial fossa, and posterior cranial fossa. So these are the 3 divisions of your cranium, like anterior cranial fossa, middle cranial fossa, and posterior cranial fossa. So we are today going to focus just on this middle cranial fossa. So just pay attention about this middle cranial fossa. You can see a sphenoid bone over here. See, the diagram was not a perfect diagram. I'm just showing you for a reference. So this is your sphenoid bone, this is lesser wing of sphenoid, and here it is the greater wing of sphenoid. Then you will find a depression over here. This depression is very important. I'll just give you 2 seconds or like 3 seconds. Just try to point out this. What is this actually? Try to imagine what it will be actually. It is your sella turcica or hypophyseal fossa. This is your sella turcica or Turkish saddle, which we call as sella turcica, in which your pituitary gland rests over here. Sella turcica, or you can say it as hypophyseal fossa. So this is your sphenoid bone, the sella turcica. Over here you will find a bone which is called as petrous part of your temporal bone. Petrous part of your temporal bone. So this is something just a brief, or you can say a short idea about middle cranial fossa. Now we are going to just see from like the foramina of this middle cranial fossa. You'll find the foramina which are important for us today, that I am going to discuss. So over here you will find a foramina over here in the greater wing of sphenoid somewhere. Here you will find a fissure, or that is called as supraorbital fissure. Then below it you will find a small foramina which is your foramen rotundum. Next to it foramen ovale. Then just starting of this petrous temporal bone you will find a next structure or foramina which is called as foramen spinosum, and here there is a space which is called as your Meckel's cave. In this Meckel's cave, that is apex of this petrous temporal bone, over here you will find your trigeminal ganglia, and this trigeminal ganglia is going to give rise to your 3 branches which are ophthalmic, maxillary and mandibular. So the 3 branches, it is the intracranial course. From extracranially it will pass, like the first branch which is your ophthalmic branch, it will emerge out from your skull or from the cranium via supraorbital fissure. It will go out supraorbital fissure, and second part will move from second, which is your maxillary nerve. It will emerge out through foramen rotundum, and the third part will emerge out, that is third branch, that is mandibular part, it will come out of foramen ovale. So we have seen from where the nerves are emerging out from the middle cranial fossa or the cranium extracranially. So the first branch, that is your ophthalmic branch, will come out of supraorbital fissure. Second branch will come out of, that is the maxillary branch, will come out of foramen rotundum, and the third branch will come out through foramen ovale. So we have seen the intracranially from where the first division, second division and the third division emerges out extracranially. So you will find your trigeminal ganglion in Meckel's cave. From this Meckel's cave, it will give you the 3 branches, and these 3 branches will extracranially emerge out from the 3 foraminas, or from the first supraorbital fissure, foramen rotundum and foramen ovale. So this was about your course, or you can say from where the trigeminal nerve is emerging. Let me clean this. So next we have to discuss about the nuclear columns now, or functional components. Basically what is the function of this nerve, that is trigeminal nerve. So when you will discuss about the nuclear column, there are 2 nuclear columns. One will be your sensory and next will be your motor. So first, which is the sensory one, that is your general somatic efferent column. This is your first column. General somatic nuclear columns, general somatic efferent column. This basically is divided into 3 nucleus. Is concerned for 3 nucleus. First is spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Don't get confused, just focus what I'm saying. First is like spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, then it is next is the superior nucleus of trigeminal nerve, and then the last is your mesencephalic nucleus. Okay, so general somatic efferent column, these are specially only concerned with your sensory functions or sensory fibers. Now this nerve, entire trigeminal nerve will be what you can say, this has both fibers, that is your trigeminal nerve is mixed one, in which your ophthalmic and maxillary is purely sensory and your mandibular is both mixed, that is it is mixed fiber, like motor and sensory both fibers, it has both fibers. So the sensory functions are concerned with this spinal nucleus, superior sensory nucleus, and your mesencephalic nucleus. Now spinal nucleus is specially designed for your specially responsible or designed for your carrying pain and temperature fibers or sensation. Everything which is concerned with pain, I'll take other pen. The things which are concerned with pain and temperature of face is carried out or taken by your spinal nucleus. Then the touch and pressure sensations are taken by superior sensory nucleus, and mesencephalic nucleus is concerned for proprioception. So now it is clear, these are the functions, these are the sensory functions which are distributed to three nucleus, basically spinal, superior sensory, and mesencephalic nucleus. So spinal is concerned about pain and temperature sensations, superior sensory nucleus is concerned with your touch and pressure sensations, and mesencephalic is specially designed for your proprioceptions. Okay, so and this was about your general sensory efferent column. Now there is the second one. There is second column which is your motor, that is it is concerned about everything about your motor functions. So that is branchial efferent column. Branchial efferent column. Now this nucleus or this column is concerned about supplying the muscles of mastication and 4 other muscles, means the functions like chewing, biting, or like mastication, these all are concerned with this nucleus, and the fibers are this nucleus, and it supplies your muscles of mastication and the muscles which are derived from your first branchial arch. So there are 4 muscles of mastication, that is masseter, temporalis, medial pterygoid, and lateral pterygoid, and other 4 muscles of first branchial arch, means it is all, these 4 muscles are also from the first branchial arch, but there are other accessory muscles of first branchial arch. They are tensor villi palatini, then tensor tympani, anterior belly of digastric, and mylohyoid. So these 4 branches are also supplied by your branchial efferent column, or concerned about the motor functions of these muscles. It supplies these muscles, that is your 4 muscles of mastication and 4 accessory muscles, that is tensor villi palatini, tensor tympani, anterior belly of digastric, and mylohyoid muscle. So we'll see, when you take a section, you should know where is the position of your this nucleus. When you take a section through your pons, lower pons, this is the upper pons, and this is your lower pons. So you'll draw a midline from here. When you see your upper pons, you will find the arrangement of these nucleus in such a way. Here you will find your spinal nucleus, then superior sensory nucleus, then you will find your mesencephalic nucleus, which of these 3 are sensory, and the last motor, which is your branchial afferent column, or you can say branchial efferent column, or you can say it as motor nucleus. Okay, so these were the position in your what upper pons. This is upper pons and your lower pons. So it will carry the sensations from here. So this was your spinal nucleus, superior sensory nucleus, then your mesencephalic nucleus, and this was your motor, that is your branchial afferent column. Now we'll diagrammatically see the sensory outflow of trigeminal nerve. You'll see the sensory, how the sensory sensations are taken by your trigeminal nerve. Okay. So just have a patience. Okay. Here I am making just face proper understanding. Okay, so I'm done with this. Now you'll see our central nervous system, or you can say the components of that central nervous system. Just making, I'll try make it from black only. So this is your thalamus, midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, and your spinal cord. Okay, and here this area is your cerebral cortex. So this is your thalamus, your midbrain, your pons, medulla oblongata, and the spinal cord. So now this is your midline. I'm just for a reference, we'll draw a midline from here. Okay, now imagine you have your trigeminal ganglia over here. This is for V1, V2, and your V3. So just focus what I am doing here, and we'll make the other sensory nucleus which we have forgot to make over here. So here you will find your, here I am making a nucleus. This is your mesencephalic nucleus, then this is your superior sensory nucleus and your spinal nucleus. The three nucleus which we have discussed, the sensory nucleus which we have discussed, that I had made. This is your mesencephalic, then this is superior sensory, and this is your spinal nucleus. So now we'll just take different colors of pen to show the branches or the outflow of this sensory pathway of your trigeminal nerve. The first pathway, or the first branch, which is your ophthalmic branch, it will travel, or it will carry the sensations over here from here. That is your which process? This is your frontonasal process. From the frontonasal process, it will take all the sensations, sensory sensations to the trigeminal ganglion. Here it will relay, and then it will travel to your other nucleus. Okay, so whatever the touch, temperature, pain, pressure sensations are there, it is carried from this pathway, or this from the first branch, that is the what you can say ophthalmic branch. The sensory sensations are taken from this. It is taken to first to trigeminal ganglion. From here it moves to your superior sensory nucleus and to the spinal nucleus. Now we'll take the second color, which is the maxillary. So maxillary, from maxilla it will, or maxillary area, it will take the sensory sensations over here. It's your central process and it's a peripheral. From here again it will, one process will go to a superior sensory and the other one is going to move to your spinal nucleus. So same thing again, the touch, temperature, pressure and your touch, temperature, pain, pressure, these all four sensations, it is taken from your maxillary area, from the maxillary branch, and it is taken to your central nervous system into these two processes, or sorry, to these nucleus, first superior sensory and your spinal nucleus. Now the last branch, take blue, which is a mandibular, from here to your trigeminal ganglion. Again, one will go towards your superior sensory, other to your spinal nucleus, and one more branch to the mesencephalic nucleus, because proprioception is actually concerned to these, means like mandibular branch of your trigeminal nerve. Okay, so now these all fibers will cross the midline and travel second order motor neuron towards, sorry, not motor neuron, the sensory neuron, to form a trigeminal lemniscus. It will gather together to form a bundle of fibers, that is your trigeminal lemniscus. From here, from it. Okay, so this is your thalamus, and the thalamus also contains an area or a nucleus, that is ventero-posteromedial nucleus of thalamus. From here it will emerge out to your cerebral cortex. It will emerge out to the cerebral cortex area to give your sensory, what you can say, sensory orders, which it is taking from all the area of face, and it passes to our cerebral cortex and cortex area number 3, 1 and 2. So this was about the sensory outflow of trigeminal nerve. So okay, I'll clean this board. Now we'll move towards our next 3 branches in detail, or its courses, or you can say what are its branches. Ophthalmic, first we'll study about ophthalmic nerve. Now we'll study in detail ophthalmic branch, or ophthalmic branch and its sub branches or other branches. Now we'll study ophthalmic nerve, sorry, ophthalmic nerve comes out from superior orbital fissure. So it has 3 parts, or you can say it gives its branches into 3 areas. First is the frontal part. Next is nasociliary, and the third is lacrimal. When I'll make the diagram of ophthalmic nerve, you will be more clear. So it has frontal, nasociliary and lacrimal. Frontal is divided again into 2. It has again 2 branches, that is supratrochlear and supraorbital. Supratrochlear, supraorbital and supraorbital. And nasociliary has posterior ethmoidal, long ciliary, nerve to ciliary ganglion, infratrochlear and anterior ethmoidal. So let us just enlist them. Posterior ethmoidal, long ciliary, nerve to ciliary ganglion, infratrochlear and anterior ethmoidal branch. Okay, and lacrimal has no branches. Like lacrimal itself is a branch. Okay, so frontal has supratrochlear, supraorbital, nasociliary, posterior ethmoidal, long ciliary, nerve to ciliary ganglion, infratrochlear, and anterior ethmoidal, and the last is lacrimal. So let us make the diagram of ophthalmic nerve. I am making a diagram of ophthalmic nerve. This is your trigeminal ganglion. This is your first part. Just have patience. Okay. So this had made the frontal part, which now then it's a lacrimal branch to lacrimal gland. Then there is a third branch. The marker is not working properly. Okay, it's above this. Okay, ciliary ganglion. Okay, so we have done with our, and this is the first. Wait, I'll just enlarge this trigeminal ganglion properly. Okay, so this is your first division, this will be your second and the third, and this is your trigeminal ganglion. So this which we have made, this is your ophthalmic nerve. So this ophthalmic nerve emerges out from superior orbital fissure, and it has a frontal branch, that is your, it will have your supraorbital, supratrochlear, supratrochlear. Then you have your nasociliary, this branch, it will have posterior ethmoidal, anterior ethmoidal, then infratrochlear. Here you have your short ciliary and long ciliary. This is your short ciliary, long ciliary, infratrochlear, it's your anterior ethmoidal, and this one posterior ethmoidal. So, and the last branch, that is your lacrimal branch, the third part. So lacrimal gland, lacrimal branch. So once again, the first, that is the frontal, supraorbital, supratrochlear. Then the next one, which will have your posterior ethmoidal, anterior ethmoidal, infratrochlear, short ciliary, long ciliary, and the third one, that is your lacrimal. So this was about the ophthalmic nerve. Now we'll see the next nerve, that is your maxillary nerve, in detail. Let me clean this. Okay, now maxillary nerve is also divided according to its location. Like it's found in, like, from inside the cranium, that is middle cranial fossa, then it enters to pterygopalatine fossa, then infraorbital canal, and finally on face. So according to these areas, it gives its branches. So we'll just try to make this diagram. Of maxillary nerve. If you try to make this diagram with me, just 2 to 3 times, you will be perfect in making this. Okay, this diagram is very simple of maxillary nerve. It doesn't need any extra efforts. Okay. So we have done with this. So this is your maxillary nerve. You can make your trigeminal ganglion. This was the first part, second, and the third, which is not yet been taught. Okay, so this is first part, second, and third. So as I have told before, like it is found according to its location or location wise, it gives its branches. So in middle cranial fossa, before it emerges out of foramen rotundum, it is giving a branch, that is your meningeal branch. I'll take one more branch, that is your meningeal branch. First we'll just enlist the branches. In middle cranial fossa, there is meningeal branch. In pterygopalatine fossa, it gives ganglionic branch, zygomatic, posterior-superior alveolar. Wait, I'll write them. Okay, with the different colored. In middle cranial fossa, you will find meningeal branch. Then next, in pterygopalatine fossa, you will find its ganglionic branch, then zygomatic branch, then posterior-superior alveolar. Then in infraorbital canal. In infraorbital canal, you will find middle superior alveolar and anterior superior alveolar. And on face, so the last, on face it has three branches. One is your palpebral, next is your nasal, and the third one is your labial. So just one more time. In middle cranial fossa, meningeal branch. In pterygopalatine fossa, ganglionic, zygomatic, posterior superior alveolar. Then in infraorbital canal, you will find middle superior alveolar and your anterior superior alveolar, and on face, palpebral, nasal, and labial. So we'll just enlist them over here. This is your meningeal branch. Then after emerging out extracranially from the superior orbital fissure, it is your ganglionic branch. This is your ganglionic branch. Then your zygomatic branch. This zygomatic branch has other two branches further, that is your zygomatico-temporal and zygomatico-facial. Then one more, that is your posterior-superior alveolar. So this was the area which is over here. This is in the pterygopalatine fossa. So, and this part is your middle superior alveolar, this one, middle superior alveolar, then anterior superior alveolar, which you will find in infraorbital canal. And the third part, which is on the face, that is your palpebral, nasal, and lacrimal. So this on face. So this is on face. This was in infraorbital canal. This was in your pterygopalatine fossa, and this is in middle cranial fossa. Okay, so we have done with our maxillary nerve also. Now the last nerve in detail, that is your mandibular nerve. V3, mandibular nerve. So mandibular nerve, we'll make diagram of mandibular nerve first. Mandibular nerve has first a main trunk which has two branches, ascending and one descending one. Then after it travels a bit downwards, it branches out or divides into a small anterior and a larger posterior branch. So this is your mandibular nerve. Here it has other branches, 3 and the fourth one, and posterior one more branch. That is a very important branch. Okay, so we have done with our mandibular nerve diagram. Now we'll discuss its branches. The mandibular nerve has a main trunk. First it has a main trunk. This trunk contains two branches, that is, first is your meningeal branch and the next one is your nerve to medial pterygoid, Then the anterior division, the smaller anterior division, has your four branches. First is your deep temporal, next is lateral pterygoid, third is masseteric, then fourth is your buccal. And posterior division has three branches. First is auriculotemporal, next is your lingual, and last is your inferior alveolar. Okay, so main trunk, that is your meningeal branch, nerve to medial pterygoid. Anterior contains deep temporal, lateral pterygoid, then masseteric, buccal, and posterior will have your auriculotemporal, lingual, and inferior alveolar. So we'll just mention in this diagram. So this is your meningeal branch, this is your nerve to medial pterygoid. The anterior one, the anterior branch will have your masseteric, deep temporal, lateral pterygoid, and finally buccal. And your posterior division, from here it is posterior division, so anterior division and this is your posterior division. So this is your auriculotemporal nerve, then your lingual nerve, and this is your inferior alveolar nerve. So again, the main trunk will have your meningeal branch, nerve to medial pterygoid. Anterior division will have your masseteric, deep temporal, lateral pterygoid, buccal, and your posterior division will have auriculotemporal. This is your lingual and this is inferior alveolar. So we have done with the third nerve also, your maxillary nerve. Now it's time to see clinical anatomy or applied anatomy of trigeminal nerve. So basically, like any injury, we'll talk about injury. Any injury to any of these branches, like respective branches, will have different, what you can say, consequences. So any injury to first branch, ophthalmic branch, it will lead to loss of corneal blink reflex. Corneal blink reflex. Marker is not working properly. So first is, like any injury to first division of your trigeminal nerve will lead to loss of corneal blink reflex. Any injury to second branch of your trigeminal nerve will lead to loss of sneeze reflex. And any injury to your third part of your trigeminal nerve will lead to loss of jaw jerk reflex. Jaw jerk reflex. So this was about injury to the first branch. It will lead to loss of corneal blink reflex. Second branch, loss of sneeze reflex. Third branch, loss of jaw jerk reflex. Now something in detail, or like just we should know about it in dentistry. Here I am drawing outline of mandible. Should know while extraction of your third wisdom tooth. This is, for example, your third wisdom tooth. Just for example, this is your third wisdom tooth. Your lingual nerve, that is the nerve which is a branch of your mandibular nerve, is in close relation to your angle of mandible, to here the wisdom tooth. This is your lingual nerve, for example. This is your lingual nerve, which is the branch of mandibular nerve. This lingual nerve is in close relation of your wisdom tooth or angle of mandible. Any fracture or injury to this angle of mandible or improper extraction of your wisdom tooth may lead to rupture, or you can say damage of lingual nerve, and this lingual nerve supplies your general sensations of anterior 2/3 of your tongue. This lingual nerve supplies the anterior 2/3 of tongue, which is concerned for your general sensations. So if there is any injury to the lingual nerve due to improper extraction of your wisdom tooth or a fracture of your angle of mandible, if you actually irritate or just damage this lingual nerve, it may result into loss of your general sensations through anterior 2/3 of your tongue, because it's related to it. One more applied anatomy, that is just you should know about referred pain. So any irritation or inflammation of mandibular branch of trigeminal nerve will lead to referred pain in ear via auriculotemporal nerve. Because auriculotemporal nerve innervates your ear, that is the external ear mostly. So if there is any any inflammation or any problem to your mandibular branch of trigeminal nerve, it will cause a referred pain in ear. So like with this we have end with our next, this is the most important topic, which was your trigeminal nerve. So I hope you must have enjoyed this video lecture, and see you soon with the other upcoming anatomy lectures. Thank you. Thanks a lot.